And time now to hear from emzae, who you're going to hear from in session, in fact, all this week. Delighted that emzae can join you on the programme. Hello, lovely to meet you finally.
Hi, thank you for having me on. It's amazing to be here.
It's a pleasure. I've just heard so much about you from loads of people. Dean Jackson talks about you a lot, and as do loads of other people around the kind of Derby music scene. They're all saying, "Oh, have you met emzae?" I still haven't met you. And so it is great to finally meet you. Where does this notoriety come from, then?
I have no idea. I didn't even know it existed, to be honest.
It does.
I'm surprised.
Well, Dean talks about you a lot because he credits you as somebody who has a real passion for supporting and championing local music.
Yeah.
Because I know you're a big listener of The Beat on a Saturday, and you listen to a lot of BBC Introducing. You're on BBC Introducing an awful lot. So what is going so right here in Derbyshire, music-wise?
Oh my gosh. There is just such a huge community of really passionate and talented people who, they really put their all into what they do. And there's so many people who give up their time, their sort of extra free time to put on gigs and to support new musicians and to help sort of nurture them. So there's a real sort of passionate community in not just Derbyshire but also the wider East Midlands, and I think it's just wonderful.
And it is great that you're able to be a part of that community. How supportive is it?
Amazingly supportive, because I really did start from nothing. I was just sort of in my bedroom and I was really, really shy, and to me performing was a huge thing that I wasn't even sure I'd ever be able to do, but people sort of helped me, and they've been really super friendly and supportive and encouraging, and whenever I have sort of anything that I'm worried about, they'll always sort of give me advice, and there's just so many amazing people around here, so I'm really thankful to all of them, and obviously a load of the musicians around here really inspire me with my work as well, so yeah.
Great, well, we'll talk a little bit more about that, I'm sure, as the week goes on, but let's hear from you first of all. And we should just explain your setup that's going on here, because you kind of make music in quite a unique way. Just describe what you've got in front of you.
Okay, so in front of me, so when I actually make my music at home, I produce it all sort of in Logic on my Mac. So most of the things that I do, it's majority of it is like virtual instruments.
Right.
And then I sometimes have a bit of...
Sorry.
Sorry.
No, sorry to interrupt you. I was just thinking it's getting like translating that to a live setting.
It took me a long time. I started off sort of performing acoustically, but which is nice to sort of have that change, but it was quite it wasn't like fully translating what I was doing at home into a live setting. So basically what I've got in front of me and what I've been using at the moment is I've got something called an MPC Live, and it's basically like a sampler, so it's got all of my samples off like my Logic files, so that I can sort of press different things at different times, and launch like samples and clips and stuff. Then I've got a synth connected to that, so that at times I can play like some of the synth parts as well. I mean, I always say like I'm not an octopus, so I can't do every single bit of it, which is a shame. I'm not an octopus.
I know an octopus.
So I can't do it.
I thought that was like some crazy musical term.
No, I'm not an octopus.
No, not an octopus. That's fair enough.
So I do as much as I can, but my tracks are like ridiculously like I have like hundreds of tracks in my file. So yeah, I can only do so much more.
Wow, I wonder how much your computer cost. That's my first.
Actually, not that much, I bought it second hand. So
okay, there we go. That's all right. Right, well, let's hear this music then. What are you going to perform this evening?
So the first song that I'm going to perform is called Lucid Dreaming. It was the first song I really wrote, which admitted how much I'd always wanted to be a musician, because I'd sort of kept it hidden for a long time, and this just is about my love for music, really.
Great, let's hear it.
Okay. in personas, but I can't restrict my soul. It's all I see when I close my eyes. Most of the time,
That was great. That was so good. Thank you so much for that. Really, really enjoyed it. And what was great was kind of watching you perform, because like you kind of are a bit of an octopus. You know, you were like, because you got this setup in front of you, and then you just got to keep every now and again like triggering off a sample, and you like going away doing a bit of singing and triggering off another one.
I know it's hard to make it look as though I've got it all under control, because in my head I'm like, oh my god, I've got to switch it to the next one.
No, you did. It looked like you made it look really kind of part the whole thing. It was great.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for today, emzae. I know you're back tomorrow, and emzae's actually with you all this week. And time to hear some more music in session now. Yesterday you heard from Derby's very own emzae, and she is back. Lovely to see you again.
Hi Martin, hi everyone.
Hello. A slightly different setup from yesterday, because yesterday was all about your original music, which was fantastic, by the way. But you were talking about how you kind of produce heavily produced stuff. You know, you sit at the computer for, I imagine, hours on end trying to get it, you know, like hundreds and hundreds of different mixes of things. But now it's just you and a guitar.
Yeah. That's sometimes how the songs start. Not all the time, but yeah, I'd say this is yesterday was like my comfort zone, and this is like me out of my comfort zone.
Really?
Yeah, I've never actually played this guitar in public ever. I do sometimes play guitar at gigs, but mostly I just play it in the comfort of my own home.
So how did you start then finding this love of playing and making music?
It's just always been there since I can remember. It really just is a part of me. I've always done it my whole life before. I think I started putting myself out there as emzae in about 2014. But before then, I've written like so many songs that I don't even know if I could count them or put a number on them. So it's always been like just a part of who I am. Is just what I need to do to like make sense of the world, just like write songs and listen to music. Yeah,
and yesterday we learned an awful lot about that kind of I suppose the more technical aspect of the writing process, in the fact that you do a lot of sitting down and really thinking about how a song sounds, how it's put together. Do you see yourself more as a kind of songwriter / producer than you do a performer?
I think I just wear the hats at different times. I'd probably say it depends which day you catch me on, because most of the time I would say the thing I care about most is the lyrics and what the songs mean and what they say and what they make people feel and think. Most of the time, because I actually do a lot of like creative writing and copywriting and stuff in my spare time, so I would say that most naturally I'm probably a writer and then probably a singer, and I've got this weird, crazy dream of being like the female Timbaland one day, but that's like
that's not. I don't think that's a crazy dream. I really don't. I think that's well within your grasp.
It's just that's like a really long work in progress, because production there's always something new to learn. But I do love the technical aspect of it, and just I do love that process of sitting in front of a screen for months on end, even though I say at the time that I don't. And then the performing bit is quite nice because I've always loved performing, because I always did it since I was a kid. I was always like in dance troupes and choirs and stuff, but then I just had a time in my life that wasn't really that great, so I was like I lost a lot of confidence and didn't feel like I could perform. But I always knew like in my heart that I loved it. But when I did actually go and do it, and still sometimes it's gone a bit, I just felt so nervous, and like it was like my whole body was shaking when I was on stage. It's taken a long time for that to sort of wear off, but I feel like now I'm starting to enjoy it and enjoy like playing that character and getting into it on stage. So I like all three of them really. I think it was yesterday when I watched you perform that kind of really came across, because like talking to you, when seeing you perform is something completely different, and you kind of see you come alive, and you do kind of you do, as you say, kind of play that part. But speaking to you beforehand, I thought, this person seems quite reserved and a little bit and then all of a sudden it's like, click your fingers and it's, whoa, here I am. I feel like I've got different personalities. So like most of the time, especially if it's sort of a new person that I've met, I am quite reserved and quiet and stuff, and I don't mind like spending time on my own. But then I think once I get to know people, I'm a bit more like sort of flamboyant.
Do you know, I think I'm the same a little bit. I feel like it takes me, or maybe it takes other people about 6 months to actually properly
well, you've got to figure out if you trust people. And
that's it.
It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. I think it's good to be just aware of, just... I think we're going off on a tangent a little bit.
We are a little bit. Anyway, let's get back on track and play some music, shall we? You mentioned that you like your songs to be meaningful, and you like to think about the way they...
I can see where this is going.
You like songs to be meaningful. You really think about the message that they're sending, and you've chosen to cover the Sugar Babes.
And I'll tell you for why, Martin. Because on top of all of that, I do like my songs to be meaningful, but sometimes I just love a good pop song, a good pop production, because I do absolutely adore pop music, and I think that it's about so much more actually than just the song or who wrote it. I feel like pop is just this whole machine, and there's so many different people who go together to make a brilliant pop song. And this particular pop song, I was randomly in Superdrug one day a few months ago, and on Superdrug Radio they put it on.
Oh God!
And I was like, oh, you know what? I forgot about this song. It's an underrated, what one might call a banger.
Yeah.
And I found out it had 2 chords, so I thought, why not do that on the top floor? So
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to this, and you know, I credit myself as somebody with an in-depth knowledge of the Sugar Babes back catalogue. It's not true, but I haven't come across this one. What are you going to do?
It's called Overload. It was their first ever single, I think, and it's got quite a hypnotic video, if you want to check that out on YouTube.
Okay, I may well
in
do
my
that.
opinion, anyway.
I may well do that. All right, take it away. This is emzae performing for you on the top floor.
Strange fear I ain't felt for years. The boy's coming and I'm close to tears. I can't let go of you now. Imagination's playing around for free, and in my world I take him out for tea. Oh my God, can't say no. Skipping school, go off for air. I just had to get out of bed. I'm on overload in my head. Train comes, I don't know its destination. It's a one-way ticket to a madman situation. Train comes, I don't know its destination. It's a one-way ticket to a madman situation. Life in a dream time does come true, and in my sleep I think of you. Feather bed by myself. Basically, probability says the face comes out with me. It's been so long on my shelf. Train comes, I don't know its destination. It's a one-way ticket to a madman situation. Train comes, I don't know its destination. It's a one-way ticket to a madman situation. The tension is incredible, boy, I'm in charge. How I feel for you, will you stop or will you just go? Please don't say no, no, no. Ooh, our secret's safe in bed. Ooh, our secret's safe in bed. Ooh, our secret's safe in bed. Oh, our secret's safe in bed.
I see what you mean about hypnotic qualities to that song.
Do you think?
It is. It's very.
Sorry for the slightly dodgy chord there.
No, well, I didn't notice a dodgy
really?
chord.
Oh, okay, that's good. That's good. Hopefully the audience didn't.
No, nobody noticed any dodgy chords. There weren't any dodgy chords. If anything, it added to the hypnotic quality.
Okay, that's good.
Probably. I don't know. No, very, very nice. We will talk more and we will hear more. I think we're going to hear another original. You're back on the on the. I don't know what it's called.
Thing.
The thing, the machine. They're back on the production machine tomorrow. And time for some music in session for you now. All this week you've been hearing from Emzae. She's from Derby. And, well, Emzae, we were talking yesterday really about the best way to describe you and what you do, because you do an awful lot. You said and I like this little quote from you, that you want to be like the female Timbaland. So like producing music is a massive part of what you do, and writing songs, but of course you perform them as well. And I think we should just remind people about this amazing bit of kit that you've got in front of you, which allows you to perform the songs that you take kind of hours over to produce at home, on the computer, and using all that kind of virtual instruments and computer software. So what's in front of you here?
So we've got like a two-tiered, I'll describe it as best as I can. We've got like a two-tiered like keyboard stand, and on the bottom tier there's a synthesizer, and I use that. Sometimes I'll use like the internal sounds within that, but sometimes I'll use it as a MIDI keyboard, and then that's connected up to something called the MPC Live, which is like a sort of newer version of, like, if you know, sort of like classic MPCs that are used a lot in like hip hop and stuff like that.
I don't, but is it like a sort of sampling thing?
Yeah, it's like a sampler with like a load of sort of square pads on it, but it's also like, it's a really amazing piece of machinery, if you will, because it's got like it's almost like a standalone digital audio workstation, which is like a music production software, but you can also use it. Obviously, it's called the MPC Live, so it's kind of geared towards live use. So I put a lot of, basically my songs when they're on my computer are comprised of like hundreds of tiny little sections, and I basically separate them all off and put them onto the hard drive of the MPC. And then certain bits I'll have sort of pre-programmed in, but then other bits I'll assign to the different pads so that I can sort of play them in live as I'm singing. And then I will use the synth sometimes as a MIDI keyboard so that I can play in live some of the original synth bits off the songs, which I do in this one as well. So when you hear the synth solo, that's me playing it.
Hey! And let's talk a little bit about writing music.
Yeah.
Because that is something that you're extremely passionate about. How do you go about writing a song? What comes first? I think you said yesterday that you do sit with the guitar a little bit to come up with the first bit.
It depends. There's various different ways that I can write stuff. When sometimes I can't even remember how I wrote this one, because it's the oldest one that I'm playing this week in terms of my sort of originals. But sometimes there's one that I'm playing this week where I just was walking along outside somewhere when we were on holiday, and I just came up with these sort of lyrics. A lot of my best ideas seem to come when I'm like outside of my normal sort of creative zone. But sometimes I'll literally sit down with a guitar and some paper, or like I'll record something on my phone. I've come up with stuff in like when I've been at work before and gone in the work toilets and recorded some voice notes. It happens everywhere. Sometimes I've come up with it in the car. Sometimes I come up with things like that.
I love the idea of like your colleagues going into the toilet and they just hear this sort of this.
I sort of whispered it when I did that.
But I thought this was
really...
like a common occurrence. You singing in the toilet.
No.
Come out. What is that noise? It's just emzae.
No, I keep those things quite secretive. Sometimes I've got a document on like Google Docs called Lyric Dump. And I've started putting random ideas and quotes and things that I've seen and things that I've been thinking about in there. Sometimes, though, I will write a song actually within Logic, so I'll just have an idea for something and throw down some, just really basic like stock synths and stuff, and just like because it has like a section to write your lyrics in the program, so I'll just like get the notepad up, write them in there. I've got like millions of randomly named files on my hard drive, and it'll just be about whatever I'm sometimes I'll write like deeply personally about myself and how I'm feeling to sort of make me feel better, and then sometimes I'll write about characters or just something that I've sort of observed or something that I'm thinking about in the world. And it's always got to be something that's important to me, though, unless I'm just like a couple of years ago I wrote some really just sort of bubblegum pop songs that were just like not really about that much, which sometimes I like doing that, so yeah, bit of everything.
And which do you find that the songs that in which you kind of pour your heart into and there's something, you know, are really, really personal, do you find those a lot more difficult to perform?
No, I probably find it easy because it means that I'm really getting into it and I can really disconnect myself from the anxiety of like looking into the whites of people's eyes. I can really just put myself in and just imagine that I'm going through that again, and just
I can shut my eyes if you like, if that helps.
Yeah. Well, one of the things.
Or hide under the
no,
desk.
don't worry. It's nothing personal, Martin. No, I mean, a lot of people say you might have noticed that a lot of the time I shut my eyes when I'm performing. That's like half because it's kind of a coping mechanism. Like I think to myself, like wherever I'm performing, whoever it's in front of, and wherever I am, as long as I close my eyes, I'm still like in the same place, if you know what I mean, and it's no different to the last gig. So it's half because of that, but also I even do it when I'm singing at home, like on my own, because it just helps me to concentrate on my vocals and my lyrics and stuff, because I'm not always the best at concentrating, so sometimes I can like just completely go off somewhere. But yeah.
Well, we're going to bear all that in mind now when we hear you perform. This is something you've written. This is a track called Flown. What can you tell me about it? So I wrote it either in 2014 or 15. It's quite an old song, but I sort of remastered it. I remixed it, I think, a couple of years ago, and I haven't like fully released it yet. You can listen to it on my YouTube, but I'm thinking of sort of including it as a bonus track on my next album. And it's just about, you know, I think the lyrics will be pretty self-explanatory, but it's kind of like a self-empowerment sort of song. Okay,
anyway.
Let's hear it. Emzae performing for you on the top floor.
To return to land again. There's no light in the dark when you call no more. And I don't know what it means to be in love. Spend our lives in the arms of another one. Don't you know I could give you what you want? But in the morning I become unloyal, I become untrue, I become the one you never give your heart to. chances now. It's time to fly. Oh. Oh. Boy, I know I never was your girlfriend, but you could at least have told the truth. There's no light in the dark when you call on. And I don't know what it means to be in love. Spend our lives in the arms of another. Don't you know I could give you what you want? But in the morning, I become a lawyer. I become untrue. I become the one you never give your heart to. No more waiting for you. No more chances now. It's time to fly. You're falling from the sky. You're falling from the sky. Ah, 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 ah. You're falling from the sky.
The music of emzae for you on the top floor on BBC Radio Derby, and yeah, and it is important to try and get across just like how much is going on as you're doing that. You're triggering off samples, and that whole bit at the end, the synth solo, that was you as well, actually playing that in there live as well, which is great. Thank you so much for today. Back tomorrow with a cover, I think.
I am, yeah.
Okay. Any more Sugar Babes or something like that on there?
No, not this time.
Okay, all right. Live music from emzae, who's been in session all this week. She is from Derby, and she makes great music as a producer. She also performs as well, and you maybe heard her yesterday doing some like amazing kind of... what was it like? It was kind of emzae-like production, but in a live setting.
Yeah, I guess you could call it that. Just trying to replicate as many things as possible from studio into a live setting, and some things were automated, and then some things I triggered live, and yeah.
But that isn't what's going on today, because you're going to do a cover today, and you've just got the electric guitar with you, which we will hear in just a moment. I wanted though to kind of touch a little bit on your working with other people, because not only are you a big supporter of the local kind of music community in Derbyshire and East Staffordshire, you work with a whole host of other producers on projects. Talk a little bit about that, because I think the first time I came across you was the BBC Introducing Track of the Week. Dean Jackson put forward one of your songs for that, and it was you in collaboration with somebody else.
Yeah, so I think the track of the week was in collaboration with a guy called Resonator, who is a really super talented electronic artist and producer, and he was really kind enough to remix my track. The track that I played on Monday, which was Lucid Dreaming, I was lucky enough to collaborate with 4 other electronic producers who remixed the track for a remix EP. So it was Resonator, a guy called Marcus T, a guy called Tokyo54, and Doppler as well.
Love all these names, by the way.
Yeah.
They're never just called Steve, are they?
No, they're not. They're always like really exciting and cool. But they're all individually really nice guys, and they were just a dream to work with, really. Sometimes I like to... Sorry.
How does that work? How does the collaboration work? Is it all kind of done online, or do you actually sit with these people?
Most of it's done online. I've collaborated with quite a few people sort of over the past few years, and it's almost always been online, because I think most of us sort of, what we have in common is that we do sort of all make it at home and in home studios, or on the move, if you like. It's all sort of over the internet. And in fact, I hadn't met Resonator. We'd released a few singles together, and I didn't meet him till sort of last December or something, and I didn't even know who he was.
Really?
I had to sort of send him a message and say, like, I think that you're the guy over there with the long hair. What? I don't know for sure, so can you just turn around? There's so many amazing producers, and sometimes I like to sort of step back from. I mean, it takes a weight off my shoulders sometimes as well, because it takes so long to mix things, and then I can just hand it off to them, do my vocals, and then that's me done, rather than having to fiddle with all of it. So sometimes I like to collaborate with other people like that, and there's so many amazing musicians in the East Midlands.
Right now, though, we're going to hear a cover from you. So what are you going to do?
I'm going to do a song by Lana Del Rey called Marina's Apartment Complex, which is one of her most recent singles. She's really paved the way for a lot of the artists that are coming through now, and she's influenced so many people in terms of her music, her visuals, all kinds of things. So to me, she's a really important pop artist, and I just love her music. I really used to want to be her at one time, but I think I'm all right with being emzae now.
Okay. Well, let's hear her, and let's hear you. Take it away.
Right.
I'm a borderline in the thunder, the kind of girl
Thank you. That was great. That was absolutely great.
No, thank you.
Do you enjoy performing like that? Do you enjoy, just sitting you and a guitar?
I think, like, on my own, yeah. I think there's always, like, this big... it feels like no matter how many times I practice things, as soon as I'm in front of anyone on guitar, I just forget how to play guitar. So there's always like this element of risk, it feels like, whenever I'm performing like that. So, but I do enjoy it, but also at the same time, I'm like, bricking it throughout.
When I play keyboard like on my own, it's all fine. I feel like my hands kind of naturally go where they're meant to go, and it's all fine. And then I'm all of a sudden on stage, and for some reason, my brain just goes... Exactly the same. It could be a different chord.
Yes, exactly. Like, I just forget where a C chord is, and I'm like, I'm just going to put my hands here. That's where they want to go. And then it's just like terrible. Like I was tuning up and like having a sound check at Beat the Streets Festival a couple of months ago, and it was this song that I've played like 50 billion times, and it's like I can play it with my eyes closed, but I put my hands on like to go to a chord, and they were just in completely the wrong place, and it sounded horrific. And one of my friends sort of came over and went, "Do you think that you might be a bit out of tune?" Like really gently. And I was like, "Yeah, I think I am, yeah."
Yeah, that's what it is. Well, it sounded absolutely fantastic. It really did. You didn't put a finger wrong. It was all good. You didn't. Emzae is back with you tomorrow on the top floor for the final evening, and you're going to be hearing. I think Emzae, you're going to hear the latest single, the new one.
Yeah, I'll be playing the single that I released a couple of weeks ago called Another Lesson Learned tomorrow.
Okay. Emzae has been in session all this week, and I'm delighted that she's back for the fifth and final night, and we're going to be hearing your new single, which I'm very, very excited about. But first, welcome back.
Hi, everyone.
Lovely to see you. Emzae, by the way, if you haven't been listening over the last few days, is a phenomenal producer and writer and performer as well. And she uses this cool bit of kit to allow her to perform the stuff that she kind of makes at home on the computer, which is really complex and a lot of production. It allows her to perform that to people, doesn't it? So we've got this synthesizer in this cool little box which allows you to kind of trigger off samples and sounds like that. So you're going to be using that. Let's talk a little bit about the future for you and where you kind of see yourself going, because you haven't really been at this a huge amount of time, have you? I mean, you started, what was it, like 5 years ago?
Yeah, I guess it was now. Yeah, and I only started sort of performing live probably about 3 years ago or something.
And so from where you've come from, where do you see yourself going?
I always find these questions quite difficult to answer.
It is a difficult question, because it's like, look into this crystal ball and tell me what you see.
Yeah, and you also don't want to be like, I think it was the Manic Street Preachers who said, like, we want to just release this one album, our debut album, and then it's like the best album ever written, so we can go and retire or whatever. It's like the best album. I might be wrong about that, but anyway, I guess I want to finish and release my album. That would be lovely. And then what I'd like to do is I would like to work towards putting together a full live band, because I like performing on my own, and I think it's like quite a nice sort of, obviously doing the electronic stuff, it's not like a gimmick, but it's kind of quite interesting, I guess, because it's just like me doing everything. But I'd like to sort of flesh that out a little bit, and also give me a little bit less to worry about. Sort of have someone on drums and someone on synth or guitar or something, and then mainly what I'll be doing will just be the singing and maybe pressing some samples or whatever.
Have you heard of a Derbyshire band called Haiku Salute?
I have, yes, but I've never seen them live, and I really like to.
Because they do that sort of thing, don't
Yeah.
they? I think, how many are there? Is there 3 of them in the band? I think
Yeah,
there's
and
3.
don't they play all sorts of like weird and wonderful instruments? Yeah, and it sounds really epic. I'd love to see them live. So it's quite a difficult sort of ongoing process to try and put together this band, but hopefully at some point I'd like to do at least a full band gig and then see how it goes from there. I'd love to perform sort of outside of the East Midlands, like maybe move into the West Midlands.
Whoa.
I know, it's a brave step, right? But hear me out. No, like maybe Yorkshire, I don't know. I'd love to play in like Leeds or York or somewhere like that. Just anywhere that would have me, basically. So that would be really cool. That's one of my aims this year, to do one gig outside of the Midlands or the East Midlands.
I love that. I love that because you get a lot. You get a lot of bands in here, and I say, what do you want to do? Like, what's the dream for you? And they're like, yeah, we just want to like play, tour around the world, and play to thousands of people. And you're like, I want to do a gig in Leeds.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, I'm a realist, Martin. No, I take things step by step. So I just think, what could I realistically do this year, and how can I build on that? And I guess each time the goals get bigger, because I honestly did just start from just like, in my bedroom, not really able to do that much because I was ill for quite a while. So it was like, I'm thankful to just like be alive, be here, be performing, be able to write and share my music. So with me, I'm just thankful for everything, and I just look to the next thing in like little building blocks and just see how far I can take this like weird thing. So yeah, that's really the aim.
It's a weird thing, but it's a great thing, and it sounds absolutely wonderful. It really, really does. So without any further ado, let's hear from you for the final time this week, and let's hear some kind of almost brand new music. This is the new single. What can you tell me about this?
So it's called Another Lesson Learned, and I wrote it. That was the one where I was talking about. I sort of wrote the lyrics to it whilst I was walking along on holiday a couple of years ago, and it just like came to me. It sort of talks about my feelings towards the whole love thing, but it's something that I've been wanting to like articulate in a song for ages, and it's still what I feel today. And it's kind of about the sort of pressure that we all face and feel, and what we're all told from like a young age is almost like, if you can find a life partner, then you'll finally be complete and you'll be happy and everything will be great, and that's all you need in life to feel whole. And if you don't ever find anyone, then you're never going to be whole. But it's about how like the perils of that can mean that we find ourselves falling for the wrong people, or like we find ourselves not really liking ourselves very much, and all kinds of things that can happen from feeling that pressure. So Another Lesson Learned is about the lessons that you learn through that like desperation to look to the future and find someone and settle down, and so that you feel like safe and settled or whatever. But it's also about saying like you shouldn't feel that. It's fine to just be yourself. So yeah, that's the message of the song.
Great, let's hear it.
to belong, just like anyone. What do I have from no rushing into the future? In our quest for unity, we get ourselves burned by the ever-looming fire. And another lesson learned, to make peace with myself would hurt less than someone else turning me into a ghost. Time running from us constantly, not a chance to pause. Just when we think we've done it all, we say there's more. It's a battle for the insecure, unfiltered screen. All rational thought disappears to memory. I want to belong, just like anyone. What do I have from the rushing into the future? Oh, in our quest for unity, we get ourselves burned by the ever-looming fire of another lesson learned, to make peace with myself would hurt less than someone else turning me into a ghost. Why is it I fear that the most? Why is it I fear that? Why is it I fear that the most? Why is it I fear that? Why is it I fear that the most? Why is it I fear that? Why is it I fear that the most? Why is it I fear that? Why is it I fear that the most? Why is it I fear that? Why is it I fear that the most? Why is it I fear that? Why is it I fear that the most? Why is it I fear that? Why is it I fear that the most? Why is it I fear that? Why is it I fear that the most?
Another lesson learnt from emzae performing on the top floor. Thank you so much for that, and thank you for this week.
Thank you. It's been amazing. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
No, absolute pleasure, absolute pleasure. If people are listening and they want to know a little bit more about you and your music, how can they do that? How can they find out more?
If they'd like to know more about me or listen to my music or download it or whatever they want to do, they can go on Spotify and search emzae, which is EMZAE. They can also search that on Apple Music and iTunes and Google, Amazon, anywhere you want, Deezer, even Tidal if that really takes your fancy. And then on social media, I'm basically at emzae music on everything. So Twitter /emzae music, Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud. And then if you want to hear a load of my random old demos, you can go to Bandcamp if you want as well. Right, yeah.
And what about performing live? What are your regular haunts?
I don't really have any regular haunts. There's something I'm doing in July, which I don't think's been announced yet as well, but that'll be in Derby. Yeah, haven't really got any more plans at the minute. But...
Okay, all right. Well, we'll look out for you. We'll keep our eyes peeled and see you at some point. Thank you so much. Lovely to see you.
And you.
And it was great to meet you as well. Emzae.